What's going on, guys? I'm Simple Simon, this is Old Wolf, and I am your comic book noob. And say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I'm at Big City Comics, and last episode we talked about indie comics last time I hung out here. So today we're going to specifically focus on Image Comics. So let's do this. Now, Mark, last time we hung out here, we spoke about indie comics. I want to focus more on Image today. Now, just a brief rundown. I do know a lot about the history of Image because when I first got into comic books, I watched this great documentary on YouTube about their history, about how Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and all those guys got together to form Image. So I don't want to talk too much about the history. There's plenty of things you can watch on YouTube that will explain that. I guess I want to talk more about your experience with Image Comics throughout the years, because I'm guessing you were there when it first came out.
Well, I wasn't there, obviously, you know, but I was here.
Yes, you were here.
You know, I was about this high.
You were there as in, you were there in that moment in time, and you were into comics, obviously.
Yeah, of course. I know. I remember as a kid, you don't really, or as a young adult, I would have to say I was probably about a young adult. I knew, a new company was arising, Image, and there was this and a character called Spawn. I absolutely levitated to Spawn.
You obviously would have been a big X-Men fan back then, so I'm guessing you would have known Jim Lee.
Oh, Jim Lee, Silvestri, like Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, Jay Lee, Layfield, of course, or Leafield, however you want to pronounce the guy who doesn't draw feet well. So all these names were all in Marvel. They were absolutely the prominent creatives in Marvel in the 90s.
Yeah, so I guess, like, obviously you were into comics back then. Did you have comic book friends back in the day? Okay, cool. But was that like a big, like, did it make a lot of noise down here as far as like, hey, these guys are getting together and formed Image? Like, you
gotta understand, right? Back then it was different. There wasn't the internet access that we have today. So it wasn't nothing. There was no Facebook. There was nothing like that. So it was all about what you see being promoted. Like when you walk into the comic book store, posters and stuff. There was nothing. YouTube wasn't around. So it was different. It was a different information. Whereas now, a new company arises. It's all over the internet. Forums and Whereas back then it wasn't.
Just because I know it was a big deal in the US. Like I think in the doco that I watched,
it was massive.
Like they had a massive signing at the comic shops when those guys were all there and things like that. I think the funniest story though about those guys was how they all organised that meeting at DC just to tell them that we will never work for you. Funny how things work out.
Yeah, it is. Because, obviously DC bought Wildstorm, which was Jim Lee's company. So that's why Jim Lee's a DC exclusive guy, I suppose. At the end of the day, like, Image have always worked with one simple plan, is owner-creator. Yeah. So, and they've always kept that. Then obviously over the years, the indie superheroes fell away, and they went into genre comics, which is how we know Image now.
But what books did you read in those early days?
Spawn.
Spawn was the main one?
Spawn was the main one.
Spawn was good?
And some of the spin-offs, and all the spin-offs actually from Spawn.
But Spawn was good?
I reckon I read the first 100, and then I stopped. When McFarlane stopped drawing it, and a beautiful artist of the name of Greg Capullo came along and took over, it absolutely did not change anything. It was like a seamless transition, because Capullo, he absolutely just made, in my opinion, made Spawn better. His use of shadows and mood was just amazing. As what we see now, his art has not changed. What you see in Batman now, or Batman in New 52, it hasn't changed from Spawn. It was good. I mean, he introduced great characters. He gave you this guy who was going through loss, and not only the loss of his family, but the loss of his soul and stuff like that. It was good. I thought it was really good. It was really deep. And McFarlane did a good job in fleshing out the character in those first, say, 20 issues. their ability to evolve and change over time is why they're still here.
Yeah.
You know, and other companies, smaller companies like IDW and Boom, which we've spoken about before, they're taking that example.
Yeah.
You know, that plan.
Yeah.
You know, and it's working, and it works.
When did they sort of transition from the superhero thing?
See, the thing is, it's hard to say, because, you know, even though Invincible was a superhero thing and it was from the beginning, it was there from along with Spawn, and then you had Savage Dragon as well, which was along
Still
them
going.
lines as well. You know, and that is, you know, that's like Spawn, that's always been drawn and written by the same guy, right? Same like Spawn. So, but whereas Spawn has changed its artists from over time, whereas Savage Dragon's always kept the same guy.
Has that ever happened?
The
Has there
creator.
ever been anything else where the same writer?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I guess Walking Dead.
Yeah, I mean, that was a team though, you know, so Kirkman's Invincible, which was a superhero book, but it wasn't about a superhero, I think the Invincible was one of the big changes in indie superhero books. I think it was a massive change, like for the superhero community in everything, because it wasn't about saving people, it wasn't about saving the world, it wasn't about any of that. It was about the repercussions that come with being a superhero. Yeah, Invincible is a great book. It's one of my favourite.
Need to get around to.
Oh god, it's so good. Kirkman.
So that was. When did Invincible start?
Around about that was a start and stop. Like he didn't do all the way through.
Image are kind of known for that, right?
Yeah, so he did a lot of start and stops, which is fine, and you know they move on to other characters or other books. You know, like Walking Dead for Kirkman, and he did other stuff like Outcast, and so I'm not sure exactly what year it started. It just gives a person of Kirkman's caliber of artist, as in writer, his caliber for telling stories and different type of stories. On one hand, he's got a horror book called Walking Dead, and on the other hand, he's got a superhero indie book. You know, so his diversity is what makes that company so good, because he's very open-minded. It's a good it's a good diversity to have. And yeah, the hardest thing about doing superhero books is try not to copy the big two. You know, that's probably the hardest thing, not to do the same things as what they're doing.
Even those guys just copy themselves. Like, you know, almost everything's been done.
Every 10 years, yeah. Every 10 years, like they wrap around.
Yeah. Did you read Walking Dead when it was coming out?
No, but I read bits and pieces here and there, but I'm picking up the deluxe version.
Just because obviously I wasn't around for any of this stuff, I'm always curious what it was like for the comic book scene when big things like that came out in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to understand. I was probably not into the indies as much.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was superhero. I was always superheroes, you know, superhero this. So Walking Dead went past my radar. It wasn't even on my radar. So I was never into the genre stuff, you know, as much as what I am now.
Alright, well maybe we'll wrap it up with one last one. This will take you a bit of time. But let's go with 5 image books that maybe you would recommend.
At the moment?
Throughout the history.
Invincible's 1, I'd go Saga 2, and I'd go maybe Paper Girls 2A.
2A?
Yeah, like as in...
The sequel.
No, it's just 2A, like a part of 2, but not recommended too much, because I've got to try and fit everything that I want in my
Okay,
You know, 7 to Eternity, 100%. You know, Descender, definitely Descender.
Let's just go with 10, mate.
Look, and then recently I'd probably go Oblivion Song. Another Rick Remender book would be...
My favourite book?
Which one?
Deadly Class.
Deadly Class, definitely.
Banger.
Great book. Wicked and Divine. Oh man, there's Black Science, and they're, you know, huge series, and that's what they were built on in the beginning when they went from superhero, indie superhero, and they went to genre. It was series like that really laid the foundation for what's coming now. The Vertigo line from DC, that they sort of started that whole genre. Genre comics are from way back.
Yeah.
Like before superhero comics, there was genre comics, and then Superman came along, and everyone started doing superhero comics.
Do you think genre comics is what is gonna is the way to go as far as like trying to pull just your everyday person?
Nah, it's just a choice. It's good to have a choice,
Okay.
you know, in the industry. In genre comics, you know, like there are just so much diversity, and you know, yeah. So Vertigo sort of like started that in a way, and I think Image looked at that and they said, you know what, we can do that, but we can probably do it better because we can do creator owned, whereas Vertigo is not. You know, and Vertigo line from DC has got so many great books, so many great artists, you know, writers and drawers. You know, Garth Ennis with Preacher. Oh my God, I can just go on and on. There is so much good stuff, and you know, and all of them have worked for indie. For you know, are now working for the big two. You know, it's never been better for the writer or the artist at this time, right now. You know, to own their own thing and being recognised for their art.
And last thing would be, what's the hottest Image book right now? One book. What's the hottest?
The hottest book at the moment, Crossover is hot.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
Just came out last week, so not even number 2 has come out, but that's pretty
Mixed
hot.
reviews, I find. I loved it, but mixed reviews.
Yeah, well, you got to give it at least 5 issues, I reckon.
Alright guys, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to the channel and you do like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe, help a brother out, you know what I'm saying? Give us a thumbs up and make sure you leave a comment to let us know what you thought of the episode. And again, if there's anything you guys would like to hear me and Mark talk about, also drop that in the comments. Mark, any news
Simon,
from you?
Any news?
Any final words?
Any final words? Keep it simple.
Oh, that's a good one. Bye, Mark.
You know, like I'll go, you know, like we usually do go like that. How do you usually do it? Like that?
I go like that.
Yeah, like that.
You paused too much before you did the clap.
This twirling thing is not easy. And yeah, I reckon maybe second hottest. Can I do a second?
Sure, mate. For you, anything.
Second hottest, I would have to say, no, don't worry about it. It's alright, just the one.
Wait. Buzzkill.